Council. We will be recording this meeting if you'd like to accept that. The time is 1:04, and I would like to begin with introductions. I will start with myself. My name is Jody Moore. I'm the director of the Red Lodge Carnegie Library, and I am the current chair of the Network Advisory Council. Okay, I'm gonna go down the list. Erin, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Erin LaFramboise from Blackfeet Community College up in Browning.
Thank you. And Mark?
Mark Wetherington, director of the Bitterroot Public Library in Hamilton.
Dorlin?
I'm Dorlin Rossman from Montana State University, and just as an update, on August the 8th, I will begin as interim dean of the library at MSU.
Wow, congratulations, Dorlin, and good luck.
Thank you. It's all because of my membership on the NAC.
Yay. Susie, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Susie McIntyre, the director of the Great Falls Public Library.
And Dalton?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dalton from the Montana State Library Commission.
All right, so those are members of the NAC that are present unless Sean has snuck in. We also have Jonna Underwood from the Sheridan County Library in Plentywood. She's unable to make it today, but she did review the meeting materials and let me know that everything looks good to her. And then we have an open seat that will hopefully be filled at the commission meeting a week from today. All right, for state library staff, we've got Jenny Stapp. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi there, everyone. Jenny Stapp, state librarian.
And Tracy.
I'm Tracy Cook, lead consulting and learning librarian.
Kara.
Hi, everyone. Kara Orban, state library, and I'm based here in Helena.
Genevieve, will you say hi to everybody?
Genevieve Lighthizer, admin specialist for the state library.
Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca Camp. I am the data coordinator for the Montana State Library.
And Pam Henley.
Pam Henley, consulting librarian with the State Library based in Bozeman.
Amy.
Amy Marchwick, Montana Shared Catalog Lead System Administrator.
Jennifer.
Jennifer Burnell, Director of the Montana Memory Project at the State Library based in Choteau.
Colette.
Hi, Colette Bartow, CE Coordinator, coming to you live and in person from Helena, Montana.
Let's see, Laura.
Hi, Laura Treader, Montana Shared Catalog System Administrator.
Did I miss anybody from state library staff? Okay, it looks like we have some guests today. Elizabeth Fellerer, would you introduce yourself, please? Oh, Elizabeth has no mic. She's with acquisitions at the Billings Public Library. And then we've got a Janet. It's either Janet Livingston or Janet in Livingston. I'm not sure. Would you introduce yourself, please? Oh, it looks like Janet Livingston is from the Roosevelt County Library in Wolf Point. Thank you for being here, Janet. Sydney Talman. Sydney Talman is with Technical Services Library at State Law Library. And let's see, I think there were some other names. Courtney.
I'm with Billings Public Library. I'm a technical services librarian.
All right, thanks for being here, Courtney. And then somebody in chat or in Zoom starts with Burke. If you
Hi,
introduce
Katie
yourself.
Burkhalter from Billings Public Library.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all of our guests and state staff, and then all of the NAC members for being here today. We have a lot we're trying to get done in a limited amount of time. So you have received a copy of the final minutes of our April 6th meeting and a draft copy of the minutes from the May 4th meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I so move.
Okay, we have a motion from Susie. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second it. Mark, it's Bitterroot.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So we have a motion and a second to approve the May 4th, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye. Or thumbs up,
Aye.
or say it in the chat.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Montana Memory Project Collection Policy. Jennifer, would you please lead us in this discussion?
I didn't unmute myself. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm talking away. Jenny and I were in conversation about the collection policy because we have some new content that I'm afraid we could get a little pushback on, and I want to be ahead of the game. So basically, the collection policy I have posted. The only changes we've made on it in the last several years is when we transferred from Content DM to Recollect, we updated a lot of the language to reflect that. And for that, we didn't bring it to the NAC or the commission because it just needed to happen so that it fit our current platform. But now we are adding an addendum for how to request a review of an item. So if you scroll to the very bottom of that, or open the addendum, thank you. I have just a one page like procedure for how to go up just a little bit, Genevieve. Is Appendix B on there? Appendix B is what we want to see, and I don't know where it is. Basically, make a request.
Let me do the.
It has in the, yeah, it has its own link.
Sorry about that. Now I got it. Yeah, there you go.
This is the draft document, the part that we would be adding to our current collection policy to state that if you had an issue with an item, this would be the process for reconsideration of whether or not that should be online or not. So the reason it came up is because we have collected, started a new collection called the Henry Malloy Artwork Collections, and there's several items in that collection that are drawings or paintings of the nude life form of a female. And that's the ones that I worry about, you know, somebody saying, hey, I don't think this is appropriate to be on a public website. So I just want to be aware. And then we know that we have some things that historically would not be appropriate today. And so I suspect that at some point we could get some pushback on those as well. So we just want to be prepared.
I did have a question. In the number 2, it says we'll forward the challenge to the MMP review committee, but I know maybe I'm being dumb, but I don't find where the MMP review committee is defined.
I think it's defined in our policy on the like the second or third page. It's basically a staff member from the Montana Historical Society and I. Usually the person in Roberta Gephardt's current position.
Okay. Well, if you do a find search on the policy, MMP review, the words review committee do not pop. So
okay, so I must not have. I thought I had done that, and maybe I didn't make that correction. Thank you for letting me know.
Within the policy, it talks about the selection committee.
Right.
But then.
So that's what it should state in Appendix B, and I apologize for that. It should be selection committee there as well.
Okay.
I thought I had did that so that they were the same. I apologize.
Perfect.
So Jennifer, what type of feedback, other than Susie's excellent observation, would you like from us today?
Just if you have any recommendations, if this looks all right to you, it will go on to the commission as a draft at their next meeting, and then we'll go for vote before the commission at their August meeting. So this is just the opportunity for you guys to weigh in and let me know if I'm on the right track.
Ideally, we would like the NAC to recommend this policy change to the commission. And I think that's important in this instance because libraries are obviously contributing content to the Montana Memory Project. So the way the policy is drafted, much like the Montana Library to Go collection development policy, if an item in this shared collection is challenged, ultimately that challenge could end up with the State Library Commission to review. And so I think it's important for the library community to have a chance to weigh in and really endorse the policy recommendation before it goes to the commission.
Thank you, Jennifer and Jenny. With those ideas in mind, do we have other comments from NAC members?
I think this is a good idea, whether or not you feel like there are any potential items that, this should always be in policies.
I agree. I think it looks good. My only comment, and we have not done this at Great Falls, but I have been reading that because there are some people that are non-binary, that rather than doing he/she, we could just use the word they. That's,
Susie, can you just point out where you're seeing that, because I'm missing it?
If on the screen, Jennifer, there in number 4.
Number 4, thank you. That's what I needed. He, she, got it. Okay, I see I corrected selection committee in number 4, but not in number 2. That's where I made my error. So thank you, Susie. Those are great. Look great.
The other thought I have in terms of your selection committee is in the public library level, it's really nice to have the group of trustees reviewing things and to feel like as the staff person, it's not your decision, but you are a little further separated with the MMP from your end user. So you may feel comfortable serving that role on the selection committee. But that's just something to think about if you would want more than 2 people on your selection committee.
Thanks, Jody.
Jennifer, I just thought of something. Is MMP user mean anyone outside of Montana's boundaries? I assume so. I just know that some of our public libraries are struggling with who exactly is allowed to place a challenge. Because of the nature of this resource, it probably means anyone, but that is something to keep in mind.
I appreciate that comment, Tracy, because yes, it's true. I mean, we have viewers from all over the world using the MMP. So I think user defines that as broadly as we can, because I can't limit it to people within our state boundaries, I don't think, because of the nature of it being a public website.
And Jennifer, it looks like in the appendix B, you've got review committee one more time under MMP staff forwards complaint to review committee.
I'm really glad you guys are catching all my errors. That's why it still says draft on it. I'll fix that before it goes to the commission. Thank you. If that's what you recommend, that I go to the commission.
So would we need someone to make a motion to move forward?
I think so, Erin.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve the update to the MMP policy pending changes discussed in our discussion.
Thank you, Aaron, for that motion. Does anyone want to second the motion?
I'll second it. It's Dorlin.
Thank you, Dorlin. We have a motion and a second to approve with corrections, the collection policy and the addition of Appendix B. All in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And Dorlin, congrats.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is library development plan. Tracy, is that you or Kara or both?
And I'm happy to take the lead too if Tracy or Kara would prefer.
Go for it, Jenny. We'll back you up.
Sounds good. I think it's important to consider these in tandem, although we are asking for separate actions. And again, the action would be to endorse these plans and recommend their adoption by the State Library Commission. And these will be action items at the Commission's June 15th Commission meeting. So we've been talking about these two plans now for really the last 15 months. And starting with the library development plan, just a reminder that kind of the model and the impetus behind this plan is the Montana Land Information Act plan, which is an annual plan reviewed and revised and adopted by the Montana Land Information Advisory Council and then adopted by the Commission that sets forth the goals and priorities for how we manage GIS information in Montana. And so using that model, we've talked about creating a library development plan that guides the goals, objectives, priorities, and impacts that we want to see in our work to continue to improve library services in Montana. And as you're all well aware of, the plan is focused around core services and informed by core service committees and the priorities that those core service committees identify. And then it's the role of the NAC to help us prioritize and to establish our budgets and advise on how we invest our resources in order to develop those services. So the library development plan is more of that annual snapshot of the recommendations. It includes the goals of the Network Advisory Council that the Network Advisory Council identified at your meeting last month. And then the more actionable goals that we want to accomplish in the next couple of years. It also includes the budget that the NAC recommended to the Commission at your April meeting. The Library Services and Technology Act 5-year plan is the required plan that we must submit to the Institute of Museum and Library Services every 5 years that articulates the goals and objectives for how we will spend our Library Services and Technology Act award. And it, as is drafted, is more of the long-term look forward, intending to both encompass the short-term goals and also to take that 5-year look forward. In future years, as we think about what the library development plan will look like, it will give us a chance to review our goals and objectives and to determine the degree to which we're meeting the objectives we've outlined in our LSTA 5-year plan and have some of that accountability and evaluation processes in place. And then the intent would be that we update this library development plan on a more frequent basis, again, with the input of the core services committees and the Network Advisory Council. One point I did want to make about the LSTA 5-year plan is that because we've been doing this planning process in tandem in the first go round of this planning effort, it's very likely that we may need to submit revisions to this plan to IMLS in future years as the core service committees become more mature and go through the process of refining the goals and objectives and priorities for the different service areas for us to work on. And there is an opportunity for us to do that with IMLS in future years. So I hope what the staff have prepared really reflects the work of the core service committees to date, the great input and feedback from the Network Advisory Council from your last couple of meetings. And I hope you can see through these two plans how the efforts to go through deliberate planning and evaluation puts us on a more deliberate and future-focused path to develop library services in Montana.
Thank you, Jenny. And what type of feedback are you hoping to hear from us right now? Like if we saw holes that we're missing, or we have questions?
Yes, any or all.
I would also add that for the LSTA plans, since we talked about both of them together, we do need the NAC to prioritize the goals.
Okay. Are we trying to do that today, Tracy?
Well, yeah, there's only 4. Because we
Are
have
you
this,
looking at a different form of 1 hour meeting than I am?
you can do this. I'm sure you've got it.
All right, Dalton has to leave soon. Dalton, do you have any feedback or questions to share before you leave?
Jody, I think your judgment and counsel is going to lead the NAC to success here.
Thank you, Dalton. And thank you for being here for the first half of the meeting. Okay, NAC members, any thoughts, anything that jumped out to you, any questions you have about the library, let's start with the library development plan.
I have a question on the page where it's FY 2023 NAC goals. On the third
page 13.
bullet, mine, I printed it out, but they're not numbered.
I think it's library development
Wait,
plan, Genevieve.
Genevieve, you're on the wrong document. You need the one that's 26 pages.
Okay. This one.
Yep, that one. And I think we're at page 13.
Okay, hang on, my count.
It just feels like the sentence didn't finish.
Yes, the one that says, so that libraries.
Yes, so that library.
Yes, okay, so the third bullet, the one highlighted in yellow.
We need to just finish that sentence.
Or we need to put a period after hotspot lending program.
I think that was my oversight. It was intended to say so that libraries understand and can anticipate costs associated with these services.
Okay, so Jenny, you'll finish that sentence?
Yep.
Thank you. And Rebecca in chat says she's in the process of updating the format on these documents, which is great because I thought what we're modeling this after looks really professional, and so far this looks a little rough cut. So Rebecca, I have a feeling you will handle that beautifully. Susie, did you have other comments?
Well, my I liked them. I thought they were really good. I loved the LSTA goals that they are all about all Montanans. I thought that switchover was really quite lovely, and you can tell you guys did a ton of work in a short amount of time. So I appreciate that.
I do like the clarification of being able to update and, you know, as the committees get a little more experience and I guess a little more confidence behind what they're doing. I still feel like I'm really shaky on being able to articulate kind of our new model. And so yeah, I like the idea that we're open to updating and potentially just requesting new documentation to IMLS when the time comes.
Thank you, Erin. Dorlin, do you have any thoughts?
I had to find where I actually have a mute button. No, I just was rereading back through it, but nothing at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And Mark?
I will say that I see a lot of what we talked about in our last meeting present here, which is helpful to remind me our conversation.
That's great.
I'll just add, kind of what success looks like for me in adopting this planning model is that we as staff and you as the Network Advisory Council and even the commission are able to, when asked, really articulate what are the goals? How do we see advancing library services and where are we investing the resources we have to do that work? And so I know we will continue to improve and refine the process itself. And so, today and in the future, as you look at these plans, maybe consider them through that lens. Does this help you to sort of see the big picture of where we are going as we invest in libraries in Montana?
This is a nitpicky observation, but it did jump out at me that we seem to go back and forth between calling them the Core Service Committee and calling them Core Services Committee. So we could ultimately decide what it should be and do a find and replace so that they all are the same. And then, yeah, sometimes it's capitalized and sometimes it's not. Well, anyone comfortable making a motion to approve this as our working library development plan for fiscal year 23?
I will. I move that the NAC approve the library development plan with the formatting and sentence changes that we have discussed.
Thank you, Susie. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Dorlin.
I'm good at seconding.
All right, do we have a motion and a second to adopt this library development plan for fiscal year 23? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, everyone. We have a working document.
Wonderful.
And now let's pull up that 34-page Library Services and Technology Act 5-year plan. So Tracy has indicated we need to prioritize. Before we get to that, are there any other comments, questions, suggestions for this document? Okay, I will take that as a no, but please do speak up if you have any thoughts other than the goals. It looks to me like the goals start on page 5.
Sounds right. They're right close to the top. So
There you go.
basically it's these 4 goals, and we just need your help knowing what priority you want us to do these goals in. I mean, the idea is that we would work towards all 4 of them in the next 5 years. But of course, when you prioritize, it gives you the ability to kind of say, if times are tight or you don't have the resources, we'll do this one rather than another one. And so I think of it as kind of like the first one is about content and information and services. The second one is about the technology used in libraries. The third one is about that local government community support piece for libraries. And then the fourth one is kind of the lifelong learning. And probably I would say continuing education is threaded throughout all of these, but I might put continuing education in that fourth one as well. If that kind of helps for breaking down what these goals
Tracy, does
cover.
priority, or does it necessarily relate to how much money goes towards that area?
I don't, I don't think so. I haven't looked at the LST instructions in a while. Kara, do you remember? I think priority is, it's not just money. It's like, if I think of it as if we didn't have enough staff time and we didn't have enough money to do all of these, what's the one we absolutely want to do, make sure we get done? And then what's the second one? It's more if
Yeah,
there's
so if
scarcity. Go ahead.
our staff funding, whether it's LSTA or a match to LSTA. How much of our resources overall are we applying to this goal?
Well, when I was looking at it, I liked how you had the goals and then the projects, but all Montanans have access to library content services. That first one has 5 projects associated with it, and all the rest have 1. So I think it only makes sense for us to say that that is our number 1 priority, because that is the one that we are putting the most projects to. So that's what I would suggest for the first priority.
Thank you, Susie. Good observation. So now we just have the tough job of the remaining 3.
My gut reaction was to have the second one, the technology one, be our second priority. Just because I feel like it's such a basic need that the others, I mean, they're all important, but I guess if I had to pick one, I would pick the technology one a second, because those are some of our most vulnerable communities, the people who don't have access to technology. If it weren't for the library.
That's a good point. Anyone else?
So I was just wondering or thinking, I guess, my initial reaction is to make the third one, the institutional capacity, kind of last, but at the same time, if we're not putting a lot of money towards that initially, maybe it would look good to be higher up on the list, just because I think if libraries and their local governments aren't working together, then, but I think, I don't know, I think it would look good to ensure that all of our libraries, I guess I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I guess it would be good for our communities to show them, that this is a priority, that we do support that, even if there's not a lot of money going towards it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is it's a priority. Some things cost money, like the first two, and that one costs time.
Yeah.
Okay. Interrupted someone, sorry.
Well, this is Susie, and I know that we didn't have all the public library directors at the Library Director Institute, but I feel like the thing that was the biggest concern for the most of the libraries was that working with the local government and building institutional capacity, it seemed to be the thing that was had the most energy around it and was causing the most stress for the library directors. So I would vote for having that one be high on the list.
Any other thoughts on the ranking?
When I look at them, I think, when our patrons come to the library and what means a lot to them in the library are those first, second, and fourth things on this page. But if that third thing isn't there, if it's bad, we can't really do effectively 1, 2, and 4. But it's tricky because I'm sure our consulting librarians would say there's times when we don't need you, when individual libraries aren't reaching out to you. But when we need you so much, and we're desperate. So that's a tricky one because it's kind of like it's necessary, but there are times that it isn't taxing because there's times where it is working. Like it's foundational. Is that what I'm trying to say?
But probably is foundational for local governments and libraries to be working together.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, then you're right. It does impact services at the local
So
level.
if something is foundational, does that make it the highest priority? But then in a good year, it doesn't demand a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is at the base of the pyramid. It's safety and security, right, Kara? We talked about that at the Directors Institute. It's like, it's hard to be at self-actualization in Maslow's hierarchy when you're under attack for your budget and stuff. Mark, not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have any thoughts?
Overall, I think it's a good document, and some of this, we'll just, I think our interpretations of it will probably sort of continue to evolve in the best way to kind of apply them and achieve them and what the needs are. So I'm comfortable with it, but I do appreciate the discussion and but in terms of just, I do think that, working with local government is certainly a foundational thing. So I'd probably lean more towards making that as explicit as possible, but yeah.
What does make that explicit as possible mean? Make it number 1?
Well,
or make it number 3 or 4 with a note that says, we see this as foundational, but.
Probably the latter.
So the priorities are 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes life really easy.
I was going to say the same. Thank you. Thank you. That makes editing this format so easy.
Okay, there's few of us here. Let's each chime in. Do you see this page as already being in the right order? 1, 2, 3, 4. Susie, would you go first?
I think that sounds great.
Okay. Dorlin.
I agree.
Okay. Aaron
Full agreement.
and Mark. I think you also agree.
Yep, I'd say so.
Okay. All right. So do we vote? Do you want us to action on these priorities, Tracy, or just the document as a whole?
You can just make a motion for the document as a whole with the priorities that you agreed to. That'll work.
Okay. Any other comments that we would add to this before approving the, what do we call this? This is the Library Services and Technology Act 5-year plan. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to adopt the Library Services and Technology Act 5-year plan?
All right, well, I'll go first this time. I'll make a motion to adopt the 5-year LSTA plan.
Thank you, Dorlin. But now who will second the motion?
I'll second.
Thank
Good
you,
job,
Aaron. All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt this plan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? We have Susie in the chat saying, good job putting this together. And Jenny thinking it's our best plan yet. So thanks to all the state library staff who worked so carefully on that document. Great job. All right, we've got a page 2. Genevieve, pull up the freedom to read statement, please. And Jenny, would you let us know what you would like us to review here?
Yeah, again, this is another recommendation to the State Library Commission. And like the Montana Memory Project policy changes, our intent is to take this freedom to read statement to the commission as a draft at their June meeting. And then we would ask them to take action to adopt it at their August meeting. The intent behind the document is to express the commission's opinion about matters related to censorship and concerns over access to materials that are occurring in the state and around the country, and to also express to patrons of the state library that the commission supports access to the materials that we provide. The audience for this document is more general. It certainly doesn't have any kind of policy implications, but for libraries that are facing these challenges and for libraries that are considering changes to their policies or other kinds of related implications, we hope that through this document and the signaling of the State Library Commission that the commission is showing leadership in these areas that may have influence in those discussions. The start of the freedom to read statement, the extraction from Thomas Jefferson in his letter to Charles Yancey, is at the request of Kenning Arlich, the chair of the State Library Commission, and a call back to why, when our founders were creating the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, they found that freedom to read and freedom to speak so important and so compelling. We think in this political climate, calling upon that important aspect of the historical context for why we feel so strongly about the freedom to read is important to communicate the commission's point of view.
I have a question about something in the beyond the quote than the actual text, the second paragraph, when it talks about we affirm the roles of professionally trained library staff to develop collections and programs, blah, blah, blah. I'm wondering if we what we exactly mean by professionally trained library staff. So the reason I bring that up is because we know that professional credentials are something that we are requiring of directors. And you could have an ALA accredited librarian who's cross-training a staff member who is not a librarian. And so that's in essence, that person just got professionally trained because it's a professional librarian doing the training. So I'm just wondering if we want to have something in here that's more overtly mentioning the accredited ALA degree. Because I think that if we have this, most people aren't, well, a lot of people aren't going to be aware of that credential and how that's an important part of our profession. And so I think maybe calling out the roles of, ALA accredited, degreed, professionally trained library staff or something, or maybe just adding another sentence to that effect.
I would actually argue against that.
Would you? Okay.
Because especially smaller publics, they don't have MLIS trained people on staff. But I think that also lends support and strength to our continuing education and our certification that we give through the state library. And that, so two things with what you said. First is there's a group of people who think ALA are a bunch of PC thugs. And then also just that, we are discounting a large majority of our librarians in the state by saying professionally ALA trained, accredited trained.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is part of what had happened at Imagine If and the sort of the confusion there about what we are expecting of people stepping into library director roles. And I'm just wondering if we can somehow call out more of what we mean by professionally trained. And ALA is just sort of one example, but maybe professionally trained library staff who've undergone professional development offered by the state library or something along those lines. Again, I just think it something to add to, like, we know what we're doing, and we've had professional training to get there. We're not just, and so I just thought that maybe adding some additional detail there in some way might strengthen that credibility piece.
To define professionally trained.
Yeah. Yeah. And I apologize that the way I put that did sound really snobby and that was not my intent. So thank you for pushing back, Erin. It's helpful. You're training me for my next job. Do others think that having additional clarification on that would be helpful, or am I glomming on to something unnecessarily?
I think it depends on how we intend to use this document.
That's a good question.
Is this document going to be used to, I don't know. Is it, like in my library policy manual, we include the ALA, some of their statements and things like that is like, guiding documents, but they're never really used in having to prove something. But Dorlin, you're not wrong to point out that when folks are upset about something and trying to nitpick at things, they do pay attention to every single word and read meaning into that. And so I think you do have to be mindful of how you phrase things.
Maybe we could put a sentence, because I am concerned that the professionally trained is going to put, as Erin said, some library directors of the small libraries in a bad place of, you know, what does professionally trained mean? And somebody's going to be like, oh, you got your CEs by listening to some webinars. I was thinking maybe we could say we affirm the roles of professional library staff to develop collections, blah, 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 and then have another sentence that says something about we encourage all librarians to, all persons who work in libraries to take advantage of the accreditation. Except if somebody hasn't gone through hasn't gone through the accreditation and they're a library director and they are fighting a challenge, will somebody in the community say, you know, you haven't gone through these steps, so you don't have the right to do this? So you know, if we're going to get really nitpicky, I think I just made it more muddy rather than clear.
No, I mean, I find it's really helpful because I'm so much in a opposite direction in terms of the size of my library, to keep in mind those very scenarios you're talking about, Susie. So I appreciate it.
You know, I mean, I've been working a lot with the smaller public libraries in Cascade County, and I mean, they're not even making $15 an hour as library directors. And, you know, it's very disheartening.
Jenny, I'm curious what your thought is on this line of conversation.
My initial reaction was the same as Aaron's. We have to acknowledge that not all libraries, in fact, only 8 libraries require the MLS. We're fortunate that more libraries have librarians with the MLS. I also share Susie's concern about just the process to get accreditation or I'm sorry, certification through our certification program. I had initially thought, well, maybe we could put a little asterisk after professionally trained library staff and then say, you know, means librarian with an accredited degree or certified by the Montana State Library or equivalent certification program or something like that. But I share Susie's concern that, you know, the more detail you add, it's like an audit, the more detail you add, the more you potentially open yourself up to scrutiny too.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's a good, is now an okay time for me to, okay. Yeah, I totally agree with Jenny's last kind of observation or comment about the more detail you add, the more sort of explanations and footnoting and whatever you sort of open yourself up to. And this is probably a, you know, not a good option, but at least so we're exploring all of them. I wonder if we were to remove that role of professionally and just have it reaffirm the roles of trained library staff, which would be more inclusive, you know, and, you know, professionally is sort of a, you know, it's an interesting, you know, adverb there. So I don't know what anyone's thoughts are on that, which would seem to cover everyone, but it also makes it seem like it's a little less rigorous than I think we all know it is, regardless of what degree or what certification you have.
Mark, I'd wondered the same thing, just in terms of simplicity, if that was the easiest path forward. I think back to like, well, are we prepared to put this document out there to defend somebody if they got into potential legal trouble in their community over something being questioned? I don't think that's what this document is. I think it's just a show of support. Library professionals can make mistakes when it comes to things. I mean, we are not above that. So, oh, thank you, Dorlin. We will miss you for sure. I would like to say that it probably doesn't matter, right? Like, I don't think this document will ever be used in such a way to nitpick down to that level. But these are great questions.
Yeah.
And Jenny, this looks like it's the State Library Commission that's going to, their name is on this. Are we just saying, go for it? This looks good to us, Commission?
Exactly. Yep, exactly, Jody, that you would endorse and suggest that they approve the document. I want to push back just a little bit on Mark's point, because I do think that there's the tie to professional, ties it back to the profession, regardless of our degrees. We are librarians and we're receiving training in this professional area. I don't think the inclusion of the word professionally sort of crosses a line that creates exclusions.
What if the statement read, we affirm the roles of library professionals, sort of professionally trained library staff? I mean, so what you're trying to get at is that the library staff have qualifications. They're not just random people in your community selecting books. But I think what people are bringing up today, what I'm hearing is they think the phrasing professionally trained library staff makes you be like, well, what does that mean, professionally trained? What training did they get? Do they all have the same training?
Tracy, can you remind me what our professional library standards say about collection development? Is there anything in the standards that
talk about collection development specifically?
Yeah, or that instead of identifying the training of the staff, that say, something to the effect that we affirm the roles of professional library staff to develop collection development policies and professional standards as is stated in this document. And it's the leaning on the standards that's what's important, which include both the degree and the need to be certified. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really the only place where we have any kind of that professional standard or training. The old standards, the ones we're working under until June 30th, do kind of mention using professional review sources for collection development, but the new standards don't have that. I'm just kind of looking to see if there's anything under the personnel that would be important to include. There's only the staff have the tools and training they need to perform their work. There isn't anything about it being specifically collection development.
And then in the certification process, we have to have X number of hours under collection management and technical services, I think is what it's called right now.
Yep, that's correct.
Which is pretty vague.
It is pretty vague.
And when I started, the state library required us to submit our collection management policy, I think because so many libraries didn't have one yet. But that's no longer required.
Right. So, I mean, I think the purpose of this is to point out that library staff do receive training on all services and in particular collection development, and that training is important. I just don't know how to word that. I was actually okay, Jody, with your library professionals personally, because I like using that term. And I
I
use
think,
that
you
term
know,
for everyone, not just
it
MLS.
depends on the library, right? Who's doing the role of collection development? In my library, it's me. In another library, it's probably somebody else, but it would never be the library pages or the circulation desk workers probably aren't the ones doing the collection development piece.
I like that.
And maybe we don't have to decide, Jenny. Maybe this is just information that goes as a flag to the commission.
Well, the other thing I kind of like about that is I think a lot of librarians feel a bit disrespected, and using the word library professional kind of is very inclusive and recognizes their commitment to the profession. So that's the other reason why I like that one a lot.
So
I
the
like that
sentence would read, we affirm the roles of library professionals to develop collections and programs.
Yep.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I like library professionals.
It sounds better. I mean, flipping it definitely adds pretension. I don't know how, just the word in the wrong
Or
place.
it makes more room to question it.
Yeah.
And say,
what does that
what
mean?
does that mean? Professionally trained.
Yeah. And I think it also differentiates between the staff and the board, which is an important component to this statement.
Yeah, this statement does not address the library board at all. In the next paragraph down, I noticed that there's a sentence that reads, let's see, what's the first sentence, but the third line. It says framework of afforded by these rights. I don't think you want the word of there.
Point that out again, Jody.
Okay, so we're in the second paragraph from the bottom, the first sentence, but the third line of the first sentence, it says framework of afforded by these rights, within the framework of afforded by these rights. I think the word of is, just needs to be deleted.
Yep, gotcha.
And then I loved that next sentence, that we recognize that every book is right. Not every book is right for every reader. But then I was kind of sad when it was only applied to someone else's child, because I really think that's the core of what you want to say to everybody, whether it's involving a minor or a book that would be read by an adult, is that not every book is for every reader. So I sort of wish that took a broader approach instead of just focusing on that you as a parent can determine what's right for another child. I think you as an individual can't determine what's right for another individual.
I would be very comfortable if you wanted us to take out any reference to minors and children in this document and just leave it at that, taking out the children and leaving it at kind of the last two sentences without the reference to a child. That, in all honesty, that was a bit of a hedge.
Okay.
To challenges about parents' rights.
Okay. Mark or Aaron, do you have thoughts about that?
I think it's good to do a generalized statement, because I do think a lot of children's books get challenged, but I think anymore it's books in general are being challenged. And so I think that's good to say not every book is right for every reader. And really that's kind of what we're saying, that what's right for one person may not be right for the next.
I'd agree with Aaron.
So do you guys think we could, that paragraph we're looking at, we could just delete that first sentence? And then the second sentence would read, we recognize that not every book is right for every reader. However, no one person or group has the authority to determine what is appropriate for someone else.
Yes.
Correct.
So our NAC membership is down to 3 of us. So does anybody else from the state library have any thoughts about that suggestion?
I like it. Having been at the Library Directors Institute, they will really appreciate this. This is something actually they asked for. And this is just a grammatical thing, but in the last sentence, afforded through is repeated.
Yes, it is.
Gotcha.
Was
Oh,
this
Pam
something?
says she likes it too. Thanks, Pam. Sorry, Erin.
Oh, is this something we can just pass on without a formal vote?
So let me tell you this, because the commission is only considering this as a draft in June. If you're comfortable, I still would like to take it in June, but let them know that the version that they're seeing has been discussed and amended by the NAC, but has not been formally endorsed by the NAC. And we could still then have a subsequent meeting before the August meeting or at our July retreat to take action if that's your preference.
I think so. I don't think we have the quorum to do a formal vote. But I also think you could probably state that a little more strongly, because I think it's not that don't believe in voting for it. It's just that we don't have the numbers to formally do that. And Susie, before she left, did vote, but we did make a sort of significant change after she left. And even that wouldn't get us to a quorum. So yes, let's see, Erin and Mark, you guys both are pleased with the document as it stands with the changes we've made.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay, and I would say the same thing, Jenny. So I think it's just a matter of formality that we can't officially vote on it at this time.
Gotcha, good.
And Tracy, I love hearing that based on the Library Directors Institute, that this is a document that they will be happy to receive. I think that I also feel really good. I was definitely concerned when we were talking about public library standards, the new ones in the midst of everything going on at Imagine-If, and concerned that we didn't have stronger statements or protections backing libraries in making decisions about materials. So this is great. Any other business or announcements from the NAC, from State Library, or from any of our guests here today? Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with us. 13 minutes past 2 o'clock. We will next convene in person in Helena in July, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. Jenny, anything else from you?
No, good to go.
Okay, so I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jody.